Hello everyone, welcome back to the Hindu Explainer series. I am Kushagra Goel and greetings from Law Prep Tutorial. Now, a lot of confusion has been happening regarding the Provident Fund and the backtrack of Indian government's decision regarding this, alright? So, one thing I want to make clear at the very onset, that first, this is a policy measure that happens or relates to how you save money, all right? So how you park your money in banks, how you invest it, it's part of the expenditure, all right? So therefore, the only thing that you need to understand is the bottom line of it, which is the policy measure. How will you be taxed? So contribution above 2.5 lakh will be taxed. For government employees, the restriction is 5 lakh rupees. That is it, all right? The policy, what the back channel conversation is, whether the government has been criticized for it or not, that is irrelevant, all right? You will not be asked in the examination what are the points of criticism against the policy on reduction or taxation of provident funds from this year onwards. So such questions are not framed from CLAT perspective. Therefore, you need to avoid the noise regarding this, all right? Similarly, now every editorial has a tone, has a purpose. Why is it there? All right. Now, for example, when we have editorials regarding the conversation of fire safety, all right, the purpose is to raise awareness. The purpose is to make a point that, see, this is the problem in the society that needs to be addressed. How much is that relevant from an examination point of view? None at all, right? Similarly, awards that are sponsored by one publishing house, all right? So for example, the Sports Star Aces Award. Now those awards are basically by the group that the Hindu owns, all right? Similarly, there are other publishing houses in the country. Even Law Prep Tutorial can come up with its own awards, right? Now we may grant it, the person may receive it, but is that relevant from a national examination point of view? That is how you need to understand whether a issue is relevant or not, all right? You need to avoid getting trapped into conversation that are highlighted by the media, all right? The point of media is it is catering to various sections of the society, to students, to politicians, to people, to service class, to businessmen. So there are different kinds of news for different people. For those who only want to know what is happening in their city, there is a city section for it. For those who only are interested in sporting news, they look to the sporting section. As students who are preparing for an examination that is now 2 months away, the only point of interest for you all is things that make or are part of national news narrative or international news that fit the billing of syllabus for CLAT 2021. You need to avoid getting trapped into any unnecessary questions. The point of the series is only to tell you what is relevant for you, to avoid getting you trapped into the questions about what could be relevant from a particular point of news, all right? So that is the crux that I want to address regarding the doubts that I had seen in the yesterday's video, all right? On that note, I will begin with today's newspaper. So on the front page, you will see I have not highlighted anything. The purpose is that there is nothing in these headlines that actually is relevant for you, all right? So on the left hand side, there was news that's so the purpose of Election Commission as a constitutional authority is that they are responsible for elections and they need to be bipartisan, that not favor any particular political party. Now, EVMs were found being carried in the car of a BJP candidate, all right? So now a bipartisan fixation is that, see, Election Commission officers will collect the EVMs once the voting is done. They'll be locked into, they'll be carried by Election Commission authorities, all right, to the place where they are supposed to be, all right? Independent transfers, not by any particular politician, because then it raises the doubt as to favoring one political party or the other, all right? So that is the news. Now this is regarding general conduct of elections, all right? Now there is nothing that you need to specifically do an in-depth analysis. You know, Election Commission is a constitutional body. It is supposed to ensure free and fair elections, and therefore any incident that happens around not fair elections, let's say violence takes place, booth capturing, so then the election commission orders a re-poll in that area or on that particular polling booth. But does that mean that this could be the most important news for your preparation today? No. All right. Therefore, such news needs to be avoided. Then similarly, India's records highest COVID cases. Now, this is India's COVID cases rising. Will you be asked in the examination that, see, what was the total number of cases that risen in India, or how many people have been infected by COVID-19? Not, right? Therefore, you need to avoid such news. Similarly, events regarding this. Now, we know that Kashmir is a point of contention and therefore it is in highlight. But does this news become most relevant for you all today? No. You need to just be aware what is the dispute in Kashmir and not regarding what happened on 3rd April in Kashmir. All right. Until and unless it's a big thing. For example, peace process in Afghanistan, talks between US and Iran. Otherwise, these headlines do not matter. What they tell you is that this is a thing that is part of the general knowledge, that Kashmir is a thing that needs to be kept in mind regarding your preparation of topics. But does that mean that this particular headline is relevant? No. All right. So that is how you need to see the newspaper. You need to skip it when you are preparing. And that work we are doing for you, right? So skipping the national news about National Delhi, that they are not planning to have any lockdowns, all right? But on the left-hand side, there is one news. This is the news about World Cities Cultural Forum, all right? It's a forum with 40 world cities, all right? And this is regarding how urban rejuvenation or how urban areas needs to be seen, all right? So the theme this year is the future of culture. The future of culture, and Arvind Kejriwal, who is the Chief Minister of Delhi, will be representing India and New Delhi, which is the capital of India, at the forum. The forum has 40 world cities, including the big ones, Washington, D.C., New York, Tokyo, London, all right? It will be happening virtually, right? Then moving on the left-hand side, the first farm-based solar power plant has come up in Rajasthan. What does this come under? This comes under Prime Minister's Kisan Urja Suraksha Evam Utthan Abhiyan, all right, which is known as Kusum scheme. Now, renewable energy is part of climate change, right? It is related to climate change policy. So what government does regarding that becomes important for you to be noted down, whatever is the first step. So usually earlier solar plants were established in areas that were of no use, right? Barren lands, desert, areas which are not accessible or of no use, all right? But then it was realized that you can have a harmonious relationship, that wherever your farm is, you can also have solar plants there, that energy can be produced while farming continues, all right? This increases the scope of having renewable energy. So therefore, under this scheme, the first farm-based solar plant has been established in Rajasthan, where in Jaipur district, Kotpuli Tehsil, all right? So that is the area where has it been done. 623 such projects have been announced. Which is the nodal agency doing the scheme? It is Rajasthan Renewable Energy Corporation Limited, all right? They will be the one carrying out this. The cost of electricity, for example, at home that you pay is probably 8 to 9 rupees per unit. But this electricity can be created at just 3.40 rupees per unit. So you see, not only are you not causing damage to the environment, but you are also producing electricity at a cheaper price, all right, by such measures. The target for renewable energy is 2,600 megawatts by this particular scheme itself, all right. So moving on the editorial front. So the main editorial on the left-hand side talks about India's COVID challenge and how India should work around it, all right. So it says that, see, we have not been able to identify what is the particular reason for this sudden rise in cases. So what we need to do is do genome sequencing of the new COVID-19 cases, all right. So that is the first suggestion that comes up, so as to determine what is the cause that is causing COVID-19. Also, the second part of the editorial talks about how zoonotic viruses and such diseases, influenza-based diseases, will now become more and more prominent as because of after effects of climate change. So what we can do instead of relying on ad hoc measures, the suggestion that the editorial makes is we should have a general adult influenza immunization or vaccinization program. So this will enhance nominal immunity of general population against influenza based diseases. Now if it is a mutated virus, let's say COVID-19, that is above influenza, then you need specific treatment for it. However, in general, it will prepare the population for prevention against spread of such diseases or could slow down. So that is the main suggestion. Now, because this is again a policy suggestion for future, how could India protect itself or prepare for future pandemic? So that is what the theme of this editorial is, and therefore it is not something that will come for your examination. Then on the left hand side, this is about the monetary policy determination, that inflation targeting will continue in India from 2021 to 26, and the same bracket of inflation has been maintained. So now within this, we know who will have the mandate for inflation control in India: the central bank along with its monetary policy committee. All right, the mandate is to keep inflation between 2 to 6% with 4% as the ideal inflation standard. What this also says, it provides certainty to shareholders, stakeholders, consumers and general population that see the government recognizes inflation is a problem, it reduces the value of money that people earn, and therefore steps need to be taken to keep inflation in check. All right. So that is the bedrock of this overall policy analysis. Then second editorial here, better late. This is in praise of Rajnikant being granted the Dada Saheb Phalke Award. That see him as a pioneer, someone who started his journey from black and white cinema to now motion pictures, a career that spans different eras of cinema itself. His contribution is important overall. He is not only just an icon of Indian cinema but also renowned world over for his dance moves, for his contribution to acting in general. All right, but the editorial then states that the timing of announcement is something that is questionable. Why? Because Rajnikant wanted to enter politics but then decided not to. Previously has supported one political party or the other. He has had an inclination towards the current government, and therefore announcing this award just before the polling in Tamil Nadu concludes, this raises doubt about the intention of the government while announcing the award. Is it for favoritism or not? But such questions would not have come into picture at all had the timing of the announcement not been the one that it has been made now. Now in this, the only thing that we need to know is who has been granted the Dada Saheb Phalke Award, who grants it, which is the central government, and which year has he been granted for, 2019. All right. Then the second editorial here is Geneva Face-Off, the outrage versus hope. All right. So the theme of this editorial is basically to tell how Sinhalese Sri Lankans see the peace process or UNHRC, how do minorities of Sri Lanka see the UNHRC, and how has UNHRC played the role. So this is basically highlighting the entire dispute of Sri Lanka. All right. So one, a population will only go to an international forum when it has recognized that, see, there is no justice that I can have in this country, or the trust in the democratic institutions within their own country fail them. All right. So that is why Muslims and Tamilians of Sri Lanka who are in minority see now the UNHRC or Geneva, where it is based, as the hope. All right. But at the same time, the majority Sinhalese population, all right, who had been involved in a bitter civil war with the minorities, all right, see this as a measure of questioning their sovereignty. That overall, some excesses did take place during the civil war, and the purpose of the minorities approaching UNHRC is to get justice for those who were the victim of this violence. Now, when there is a victim, there is also a perpetrator. But communities in general start seeing the perpetrator not as the individual who carried out the attack, but as the community who carried out the attack. So Sinhalese, as per this editorial, see in general an question on any one of their soldiers who carried out excesses as an attack on all other. So, similar to the question that is raised regarding when feminist or women empowerment question, that some men do things and then everyone is questioned. All right. So similarly, when one person does wrong, rather than seeing that wrong of one person, the Sinhalese population now, as the statement, blurring the lines between the few who have committed war crimes and the large majority who have not. And this sparks the question in the minds of Sinhalese that, see, UNHRC is basically a forum that is trying to undermine our sovereign authority. All right. In middle of this is the UNHRC itself. UNHRC as a member body is based on whosoever becomes the member of the body, right? Similar, in UNHRC, not every country, unlike UNGA, is a member of the committee. All right. Different countries become members based on voting patterns. Now, if, for example, there is one country who is favorable to the Sinhalese, then they will oppose the stand of minorities. But if there is a country that is favoring the minorities, then the UNHRC, now depending on how many countries are in favor and how many countries are against, based on the sides they choose, the overall functioning of UNHRC is highlighted. Now, in 2015, the Sri Lankan government in charge wanted to use UNHRC as the forum to grant justice. All right. However, but when that happened, the UNHRC forum was not favorable towards the stand the Sri Lankan government wanted to take, right? And similarly, now the Sri Lankan government did not want to trust UNHRC, but the body itself was favoring the minority cause or the cause of the victims. All right. So in crux, what has happened now is that Office of UNHRC for Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights will be established in Sri Lanka. The purpose is to collect, preserve and consolidate evidence not only on war crimes but also on gross violations of human rights and serious violation of humanitarian law. But no time period or date has been ascertained as to by when this investigation will be concluded. All right. So that is the crux of what has happened in the decision that has been, or the resolution that has been approved in 2021. So that is one news. Now regarding this, the second part of the editorial also talks about the 2015 resolution, which the Sri Lankan government co-authored. But that resolution did not have the mechanism for evidence collection. No conclusive evidences were collected in the intermediate time period. And then as new elections happened in Sri Lanka, the Sri Lankan government turned hostile towards UNHRC. But what we all need to understand first is the vested interest of different parties that happen nevertheless. All right. Secondly, you need to understand what is which side and what they want. All right. And thirdly, what is the stand of India in India's interest in Sri Lanka. All right. So all those three things are what matters to you all. All right. This editorial only tells you what is the stand that each party has taken and what is the stand of Sri Lankan government in general. So it tells you two facets of it. The third one is something that we discussed a couple of days ago already, how India sees it. India abstained from voting, so it did not favor either of the parties. It wanted a neutral mechanism wherein peace is established because India is sensitive to the cause of the Tamilians who live in Sri Lanka. All right, but at the same time, it recognizes and trusts the Sri Lankan government as a neighbor to resolve the dispute on its own. All right, which was the reason why India abstained. So now if you have any doubts about this, make sure you ask it. put it in the three headings that I told you how you should see the Sri Lankan dispute. What is the Sri Lankan dispute? What are the sides each party has taken? What is the role of UNHRC when you talk about the sides? All right. So minorities, Sri Lankan government, and the UNHRC. And third is India's specific stand regarding this dispute. All right. So on that note, moving towards the other national news. So on national front, more about politics, different governments now taking more and more steps towards curbing the spread of COVID-19, increasing testing, all of that. But on the left-hand side, India gave a statement yesterday regarding the violence that is happening in Myanmar. All right. What was the statement of India? We condemn any use of violence. India's independence was based on the non-violent struggle of Mahatma Gandhi and the Indian National Congress. The purpose of India's independence was for non-violent mechanism. As a democracy and a country that upholds rule of law, violence can never be something that India stands for. All right. Then we believe that the rule of law should prevail. We stand for restoration of democracy in Myanmar. India, being the largest democracy of the world, can never say, oh, democracies are bad, because then that would go against the ethos and the basic structure of India as a country itself. All right. We have urged the release of political prisoners and supported any attempts at resolving the current situation, including through the efforts of ASEAN. ASEAN countries are far closer to Myanmar. They share many ties with Myanmar, and therefore they are being at the forefront to have back channel conversation with the military and trying to placate the situation in Myanmar. However, none of that seems to be of any use. And on the humanitarian crisis that is happening, with people escaping Myanmar to save their lives, was treating the flow of displaced people from Myanmar as per Indian laws and humanitarian considerations. So that is the stand that Indian government has stated, that based on our security situation and humanitarian grounds, we are considering the flow of people. But none of this is actually helping the cause in general, because on the international front, we have update from Myanmar that more curbs are now being implemented on those who want to suppress the protest. So military has now shut down internet broadband services. Mobile data has been suspended for a long time already, and now broadband internet has also been suspended. This is to stop the flow of information and also to curb or reduce the spread of protest against the military rule. Nevertheless, until a final resolution is there, none of this is certain. But on the JCPOA, or the Iran-US nuclear deal, finally some breakthrough has been done. What is the breakthrough? That through a mediated conversation, Iran and US are finally back on the negotiation table. Whenever we talk about any dispute resolution, the first thing is that you need to come on the table and start talking. So this is now the first step that they have taken, that how the dispute will be resolved. Until and unless talks take place, none of that can happen. But now they have agreed that by next week to try to get both countries back into an accord, limiting Iran's nuclear program and also reducing the sanctions that US has imposed. So now they have agreed to have indirect conversation about the nuclear talks. So we need to wait and see. Now there is further escalation in Central Europe. In 2013-14, Russia annexed an area from Ukraine. What was that area? That was Crimea. All right. Kiev, which is Ukraine, has been battling pro-Russian separatists in East Donetsk and Luhansk regions since 2014, following Moscow's annexation of the Crimean Peninsula after an uprising that ousted Ukraine's Kremlin-friendly president Viktor Yanukovych. All right. So since 2014, ties between Ukraine and Russia have been strained, and sanctions on Russia have been ongoing since this time period. Russia used military forces to annex the region from Ukraine. This would be similar to, for example, Pakistan or China using military forces to take away territory of India. That is exactly an operation that Russia carried out in Ukraine. And now further military escalation is taking place in the same area where pro-Russian separatists are present in Ukraine. Alright, so now US, which is an ally of Ukraine, has assured the government of Ukraine that support will be provided in case escalation takes place. Alright, so this is a flashpoint that could increase or could be just about posturing, wherein Russia is trying to say that, see, get in line, stop using Western influence and get back into our fold of influence. So that is all that this news has until any concrete development come into picture. But now, because some of this is in news, the past related to Ukraine and Russia becomes important, and therefore the Crimean Peninsula region becomes important for you all. And the dispute that was way back in 2014, almost half a decade ago, becomes relevant for your examination purposes. You can never completely discount a news, but you need to be aware about it. Based on how many facts have come to you, the notes should be prepared regarding that. Now, this is mere escalation, nothing of real sort have happened. So therefore, having a generalized knowledge of why this has started is of relevance. All right. So the only thing right now for you all to be understood is what is the history of this. Ukraine earlier was a closer country to USSR and then to Russia. But since the change of government there, and Russia's influence has reduced, in 2014 it used its military forces to annex certain region, alright, which is the Crimean Peninsula. Now it wants further territory, or people from Ukraine want to secede from Ukraine and join Russia. So all of that is a posturing, and we need to wait how this unfolds further, alright. Then moving on the economic front. On the economic front, we have been talking about rising fuel prices. Why have fuel prices risen in India suddenly? It is because OPEC countries, from where India purchases most of its crude oil from, have reduced production. When supply goes down and demand either increases or remains the same, prices go up. Now, India had asked Saudi Arabia that, see, don't cut down production, be sensitive to our needs. But Saudi Arabia refused to do that, and production was further cut. So to reduce our import dependency on OPEC countries, India is now looking for two options. One, to import crude oil from non-OPEC countries, that is Africa and South American countries, which also export oil. So that is one option. The second is to how do you purchase oil from Middle Eastern countries? So there are two mechanisms that you can do, right? One, you enter into a predetermined cost price, wherein you will buy this much oil at this set price. So you negotiate over the contract. The second is you go to the area and say, I want to buy this much oil, and then the price at which you get is usually the price of that day, right? Similarly, when, for example, you go to a wholesale store, you enter into a pre-agreed contract. You're like, I will purchase 100 liters of milk from you, or 100 liters of so and so at this price. You are been selling it at this price right now. I will take a discount, let's say. But what happens is Saudi Arabia or OPEC countries make excuse me. So what they do is they make you purchase the price at the official selling price only, the selling price that they determine. Now this is where you become dependent on them for the price. But when you do spot market purchase, that is, you go today and then you purchase it, then the price that you get is on the particular day what is the international price of oil. Now it may be increasing or reducing, so you only make purchase when the price goes down. So that is also a mechanism you can do. India has now moved from 20% of stock spot market purchase to almost 35%. That is, we are not relying on predetermined contracts but actually doing spot market purchase. All right, so that is regarding India's sensitivity towards import of fuel. All right, so what is the mechanism that we do? That is something that you need to be aware of. All right, and this directly has effects on the foreign relation India and Saudi Arabia have. Saudi Arabia being one of the important countries of Middle East, which influences the stand of different Middle Eastern countries also. All right, so therefore any decision regarding oil purchase and sale affects the foreign relations of the two countries also. All right, apart from that, on the economic page, nothing of real note, and on the sporting front also more and more about measures about how anticipation regarding the IPL. Then again, about the Sportstar Aces Awards, a lot of you have been asking, are they relevant? I say that, see, this is a particular publishing house. The Hindu is the one that owns the Sportstar, all right? So they will obviously give you far more coverage in their newspaper regarding a particular thing, all right? However, does that make it relevant from CLAT perspective? Very unlikely. All right, so on that note, I will conclude for the day. Two major things that you need to be in the know-how of: election, Sri Lankan dispute, UNHRC, India stand. All right, any doubts about that? And secondly, regarding oil purchase, and on international front regarding UN-Iran peace talks. All right, so those two international news and one regarding Sri Lanka dispute, those are the three main things that you need to note down in today's newspaper. On that note, I will conclude. Thank you so much. And if you have any doubts, feel free to put them in the comment section. Stay safe. See you all tomorrow.